round is going to be in collaboration with UE Equity. UE Equity is an award-winning programme tailored for Black, Asian and minority ethnic students. And we are going to focus our conversation on how to pursue purpose against all odds. Well, I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story about myself, how I've done that. About 6 years ago, I approached university to study engineering, only to be told that there is no place for me to do that, and that engineering is a boys' course. Well, I was shocked and saddened by that. But I was lucky enough to know my purpose in life. I knew what I wanted to do, and I knew that I wanted to leave the world a better place than how I found it. And engineering was the way for me to do so. So I left that university, and I applied to study at UE on the same day. I have now graduated with a first-class degree in aerospace engineering, and also created long-lasting memories at this university. This university that accepted my ambitions as they were. Then I also went to lead on the Students' Union for 2 years, firstly as Vice President and then as President. I was also the chair of the Board of Trustees of the Students' Union and a governor at this university's Board of Governors, and represented thousands of students, locally, nationally, and even at government level. I still have one more dream, and that is to one day start my own business. Our guest speaker tonight had a similar dream, and he made it happen. He established an award-winning and purpose-driven social enterprise, Babbasa, to level the playing field for low-income and ethnic minority groups. He is also the co-founder of the Black Professionals Network and the founder and creator of the World Economic Forum initiative, Bristol Global Shapers Hub. In 2019, he was awarded the Lord Mayor's Medal for his services to the Bristol community and named Person of the Year at the South West Regional MTM Awards event. More recently, he was awarded the prestigious Cambridge University Social Innovation Prize for his work in designing impactful programmes. Please welcome the founder and the CEO of Babbasa, Poku Osei. Hello.
Hello.
How are we doing today?
You're right. That intros always make someone sounds grand than they are, don't they? But
well, I'd argue you are grand. So, welcome back to UE. For those of you who don't know, Poku is actually a UE alumni, just like myself. If we cast our minds back to your childhood and early adult years, what can you tell us about young Poku's hopes and dreams?
First and foremost, thanks for having us. I can see some few familiar faces, which is always nice, but at times not so nice if people know you. I think. Do you want me to, is that okay? I think to your question. Yes, I'm actually an alumni. I think people don't realise that, but I did study here, even though I did give some lectures. Don't do that if you're a student. Attend all your lectures. And growing up, I think the question is about what were my childhood hopes and dreams. I think I did grow up in a modest family. I did grow up in Ghana, West Africa. 5 siblings, quite a few of us. The 4th means that you easily get neglected if you're in the middle somewhere. I came to the UK, one can say, because of my dreams, and that's because I always thought about being able to take care of myself and take care of the people around me. And in so doing, I had chosen to go down the route of being a realtor or being in properties, because someone gave me this book when I was really young, and it really looked cool, properties, being invested in and managing properties. and I wanted to do that. So in part, I chose the UK because then my partner was here in the UK, and also I thought, why not just go in there and do real estate and property management via studies. So really, in terms of hopes, that was the hope. But that hope and dreams, so to speak, did change, of course, and it did change because when I came to the UK, that was the back end of the recession, credit crunch. I think those under 30 may not know what I'm talking about, but you will recognize what a recession is. But the credit crunch was hitting, I guess hitting all nations really. And at the time, I think even though we were all experiencing some hardship, I just found it almost crazy and baffling as to how certain groups in the UK, which is quite a wealthy country, were being impacted by the challenges. Unemployment rate was so high, and particularly amongst the ethnic minority groups, to be specific. And I had moved into an area that was highly concentrated of those, and I felt like something had to be done. And at times, you feel you have a path, but when you're faced with situations and challenges, it can make you pivot, and I think that's what happened. I then decided to pursue a slightly different dream, but to the same outcome, which is setting up a social enterprise.
Thank you. As you were saying earlier, dreams do change over time, and sometimes circumstances as well do play a part in that. You have established an award-winning and purpose-driven organisation that changed the lives of many young people in Bristol. What does Babbasa mean to you? And what is a purpose-driven organisation?
Okay, what does Babbasa? I'm just going to be making some notes here. I promise I'm not TikToking or, if you're as old as me, Facebooking. There's a clear divide now, isn't it? Those that stop that Facebook and those that continue. Instagram is the middle ground. Anyway, let me not digress too much. So the question is around what does Babbasa mean to me, and what is a purpose-driven organisation? I think, first and foremost, for those that don't know Babbasa, in a few words, I guess if I was to say that Babbasa is specifically, it's an organisation Bristol-based that's set up to support young people from ethnic minority background, but not exclusive to, but predominantly from ethnic minority backgrounds to pursue their professional ambitions, pursue and realize their professional ambitions. And how we do that, for those, again, that don't know, is on one part of the organisation, we actively go out, engage, find these young people and help them prepare for that world of work. And then the other part of the organisation actively works, or should I say, go and find employers, opportunity givers, broker deals with them, and all being well, get them to take on these young people that we would have prepared for the world of work. So it's in two parts. So what that means is it makes us more of a purpose-driven organisation, because the success metrics for the organisation is not just how much money we're making, and indeed all the money that we're making we reinvest back into the organisation, but it's more about how many young people, how many of our targets group or targeted beneficiaries have we been able to move into the world of work, so that's employment, or moved into enterprise, help them to start up an enterprise. And every now and then it's also a question about, particularly if they are not there yet to either go into work or start an enterprise, how many of them have we been able to help progress into further or higher education? So that makes it a purpose-driven organisation. But I think there is a question there about what is purpose in the first place, isn't it?
Yeah.
From my perspective, purpose, I think is the human being's way of finding meaning for their existence, and so it's more of a journey, go on a journey of finding meaning for one's existence. And every now and then, I guess what happens is, by trying to pursue your sense of purpose, i.e., find meaning for your existence, some people choose to do so through nurturing their kids and that's entirely their primary purpose. And some people choose to find some vehicle by means of a career or by means of setting up a company to pursue that purpose through. It's not binary. At times it's all the three in one as well, or two of them in one. And I guess that's what happened to me. I chose that to find meaning and a sense of fulfillment. In many ways, I wanted to almost ingest that sense of purpose through an organization, and an organization that helps to level the playing fields, like you rightly said, Rania, level the playing fields for those that are marginalized in the society that I found myself.
Thank you. This is something that I actually haven't shared with you before, but I did go on one of the Insight Days that Babbasa has organised a couple of years ago.
Products.
There you go. I was actually introduced to the company for the first time by the Vice President of Education at the Students' Union about 2 years ago. And then I went on the website, found an event that I was completely interested in, and it aligned with my goals, and I went and attended, and I loved it. And since then, I've been keeping up to date with what you've been up to.
Okay. Oh, she never told me that.
Never told you. Keep it as a surprise today. Do you think leadership has a price?
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
And if it does, what challenges have you faced as a purpose-driven leader, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, I think as much as leadership can be glorified through the lens of a screen or through films and what have you, I think it does have a price that we don't often talk about. That's generally, whether you're a mother, trying to lead a home, or whether you're a manager trying to lead a team, or you're a CEO trying to lead a whole organization. I think it does have a price. I think one element, or should I say, one key one that I think, irrespective of the role that you hold, you're probably going to experience is as a leader, is recognizing that you will forever have to, or you will have to accept that you have to live with some level of discomfort. And every now and then it feels like, maybe if I just give this up, I can experience some comfort, I can just be free. But I think it comes with the responsibility. So that's one. But I think more particular to my journey, maybe if I talk about it chronicle it in a sense, then I would have said, initially when I started at Babbasa, the challenges there were a number. So, for example, there was a challenge around me being broke, not having any money to start up an enterprise, and how do you deal with that? I was a migrant myself, so how do you work with that? Or me not having the networks, right? I started by saying that I can see some few people here that I know. I didn't know anybody at that point. So how do you bring people together to support you, particularly if you don't have money to pay them? There were, challenges such as me not having any influence, and also I was new to the community that, even though I could identify with them, through race and ethnicity, but you're still new, right, to that community. And with that, at times you get othered, right, or people. When I say othered, hopefully you guys will know what I'm trying to say, or not accepted. So you have to deal with that, because you have to prove why people should believe in you in the first place. You have to be able to let a mother that cares for their daughter or son understand why they have to let their 16-year-old daughter come and meet you at some place, because you want to run a workshop for them, isn't it? So you have to deal with all of that. But as I evolved, maybe let me put it that way, you don't also start to feel the weight, unfortunately, particularly weight around discrimination. And in my case, through the lens of identity, through the lens of accent bias, through the lens of structural barriers. So you start to feel that weight of discrimination. and that's not, discrimination doesn't start and end there. At times, if you're female, you will feel it on the gender side. On your sexuality front, you may feel it differently, but you start to feel it. And I think as you become more established, and you become more established because you start to gain some level of success, I guess. And success is how people define success by. So at times someone may see that you may have won some award and they think that, oh, you're successful. Or someone may see that you've helped a young person that they know, so, oh, you're successful. I think through that lens as well, the challenges that comes with that is, I guess one, people don't start to judge you by the good that you're doing. They start to judge you by the 1% of wrong that you get, the 1% that you're getting wrong. And you need to know how to balance that because, as they say, this guy called Nicholas Christoph, he said, journalists and people in media, they don't report planes that take off. They report planes that comes down, i.e. crash. So, 1,000 planes may take off. It comes to a point where people aren't excited about that. But, they're excited about the one thing that didn't work. And I think that's what comes with, established leadership of some sorts. And you have to be able to deal with that and manage that. And maybe the last thing that I may say on that point is also recognizing that the further you go in excelling in what you do, I guess naturally the more you become a target. and I say a target for those that even at times used to love you for what you used to do, and people that hated you from the start for what you were doing. The further on you go, then the more likely that you are going to attract some level of hate and some level of undue. The word is not scrutiny, because I think scrutiny is a positive thing. Maybe criticism. Let me say that. So you have to, you have to also be able to manage that. How do you overcome that? I think that was part of the question. I think you have to accept that these challenges comes with the responsibilities, and maybe two things. One, I sincerely feel that I think it was Nietzsche, if I'm pronouncing his name right. He said he talked about for the one that knows their why, they are almost. I probably would jug this up a bit, but if you know your why, you're positioned to almost deal with anyhow, and that is almost innate. The barriers and the challenges will come, but it still wouldn't feel enough to take you off course, the journey that, the purpose that you're pursuing, no matter how big it is. But whilst that is maybe innate and more of a privilege to, those that choose to pursue purpose, a life of purpose, I think you also have to watch out as a challenge for being burnt out, because, a price of success is of any kind is also meaning that anybody reaching you or, people wanting all sorts of things from you as an individual and as an organization. So, I mean, for me, more practical, maybe speaking to the students here, I try to take some practical steps. So one, I try to follow the rule of three when things get really busy and loud, i.e. what three things can I get done in this week, this coming week, and what three things can I get done in today, in a day. I think it helps you to cut through the noise a bit more. I try to, even though when there's more pressure, that's when I want to actually go to the gym. For my sins, I don't always go, because actually it helps with your mental state a lot. It's less of the fitness. I know that some of you young guys want to buff up and what have you, but I think it also does magic for your mental state. And is there any other practical advice that I tend to follow to help me overcome those challenges? If it comes to me, I'll share.
Thank you. You've given us plenty of practical advices already. You touched on earlier that success means different things to different people. So what does success mean to you? And are there any key moments that made you the proudest of Babbasa?
Okay, so let's take the last one first. Babbasa. Well, success for Babbasa at the moment, what we're aiming for, we're saying that as an organisation, we want to be anchors to a city partnership for the city of Bristol. That move to support 230 young people to move into median salary roles by 2030. So we've stated that publicly, and we've just managed to bring together, at times force the hands of some of the partners, about some 8 partners, University of Bristol, University UE, the Chambers of Commerce, a few key players in the socio-economic fabric of the city, to sign an agreement. I wouldn't advise that. I got more grey hairs in the last year trying to get people to sign one agreement than I ever had. But actually, what that tells us is that we are on track. And for me, that's, whilst we've had some successes in the past, I believe that being able to do that, and in many ways, bringing about that systemic change. People theorize the idea of systemic change, but when it comes down, I guess what we are trying to do is to have so many people in career-oriented roles from ethnic minority backgrounds, so much so that the ripple effects on their families and the ripple effects on the communities that they come from become so felt that it's normalized, right? People are able to say that, yeah, people like me, I see them everywhere. I see them in engineering, I see them in creative. So because of that, I can do it, right? And also, some of those young people, the 20, 30 young people that we are able to help move across in that sense, hopefully also take up positions of power similar to what you've already started doing, Rania, in a way that when they are faced with decisions, they don't just think, what makes it look good on the numbers front. They think about the triple bottom line. They think, actually, how is this going to be impacting real people in real communities? Because they understand that. They have the lived experience to be able to make those judgments. So I think that's what Babbasa. Personally, I think it's the same, really. It's just consistently seeing... it's little things for me, to be honest. Even, one of my our staff members who used to be a young person that we supported at Babbasa, seeing me rush around today was saying, Poku, what are you doing? Have you read it? Are you, he's now almost my daddy, and I didn't have a means to get here, and he said, I'll go get my car and I'll come pick you up and drive you. That's special for a young person that we used to support. Now checking me and getting me organized to get me here. So for me, it's about seeing people beginning to unlock their potential and their maturity and being able to, live their own dreams through that. I think that's what I call success. I think was that it? The personal success
you've
and
answered
Babbasa's
it perfectly.
success.
I wouldn't think of anything better than that.
Okay.
As I already mentioned earlier, this event is in collaboration with Equity. So the Equity module has just drawn to a close, and some of the students are actually here, but the rest of the students as well have spent over 6 months on this journey of personal development through the module. Knowing what you do know now, what's one piece of advice would you give to the young people in the room to help them better navigate this next chapter of their lives?
Yeah, I thought that I maybe asked the question of advice for the students, knowing that it was in collaboration with Equity. So I did put down 4 for that, just in case I got asked. I think it's important. One is, is this word? I think, because if I'm right, Equity are for people of colour, am I right? Or people from marginalised backgrounds. Yeah?
Yes, it is primarily for them,
Yeah. So there's something about recognising that your backgrounds and circumstances may have influenced who you are to date, but you're responsible for who you become. I think it's really important to recognise that. And by so doing, I guess what I'm trying to say is that you are, whether by definition of your race, gender, however, whatever that it is, you are going to have some obstacles that perhaps your counterparts may not have. So that is true, coming from the external. Just don't be one of them yourself. Don't be telling yourself that I'm this and I'm that, and because of that I'm not going to be able to do this. I think that is important. Rather take the view that the difficult situations that comes your way is actually the universe's way, or if you believe in spirituality, is God's way of helping you to harness or nurture your human potential, right? And work with that. Take that positive growth mindsets to the challenges that you're faced with and work that through. I think that is really important. I see so many young people now give up because in many ways the information age has provided so much information about structural racism and systemic racism and it feels all too much for even one's mind to be able to start to unravel how they can be any better in society. But I guess my advice is recognize that you can be, so long as you as an individual put your mind to it. I'm sorry, Rania, I'm passionate about young people, so it may not be one. I think I've already warned you on that. I think the second thing is, maybe I'll just give two on that. The second thing is, every now and then and this happened to me because when I was a student, I must admit, I was also trying to build Babbasa on the side, and I was also trying to, then I had a little girl, so trying to balance all those things, and at times, the challenges can make you feel vulnerable, it can make you feel a bit open, and if, particularly here, I'm also thinking about those students who are migrants, right, or perhaps the first generation in their family to come to university. That alone can also put you in a headspace, imposter syndrome, all that sorts. And at times people will just say, "Oh, you have to be confident." I don't think you can get up in the morning and be confident. I think you get confident by being courageous. And I say that by saying that you get up, you don't know it, but you do it anyway. You do it like you love it. But actually you hate it. It's making you feel vulnerable. And the mind often wants to put you in a space of comfort. But you have to push against that. And I think that's what makes you confident. Taking the courage, and in the process of being courageous, you realize that you build enormous confidence. That actually makes it very hard for anybody else to take away from you. At times, if you get other people gassing you up, and you get hit where you think, "Oh, hang on, I thought it was great." But if you do that through actually practicing, putting yourself up, learning from experience, you realize it's very difficult for anybody else to take that away from you.
Some precious advice here for me as well, and I've learned a lot from you already from our conversations over the last few days, and even more tonight.
Well, we were talking about, Rania was going to start teaching me Arabic, which Kazali has failed to teach me Arabic, so Rania has offered earlier.
Too bad, Kazali, he's found another teacher now.
So that would be my gift back, hopefully.
Yeah, of course it is.
We also have industry professionals as well as external organisations and the wider university community with us here in the room. How can you advise them so they could better cultivate an inclusive environment for our next generation of talent, both at the university and in the workplace?
Without wanting to sound too philosophical, and this plays back into my view of my sense of purpose. So, in this world that we find ourselves, I think as individuals, we have life, this is my view, we have life because we're supposed to play a vital role in the social fabric that we find ourselves. We have life because we have to play our part in society to make it better. I think, Rania, you said to help leave it better than we found it. And I think if that is true, then I think the university community, I think, almost have a privilege to be able to have these thousands of students that they are responsible for nurturing and creating that safe space for them to find out for themselves what they're good at and what they need to reveal for the world to benefit the world. And if also that is true, that you have that privilege of having regardless of your role, whether you're a lecturer, whether you're a project manager, whatever the role that, then I guess an advice of some sorts, or recommendation is that be that professional or that community staff member that actually do things rather than to be seen to be doing things. And I think there's some difference in there. Believe that you are playing a role, you're a puzzle in that purpose for humanity, and be intentional on how you engage. Even if you're a janitor, be intentional on how you engage with students, because actually you're playing a very critical role in shaping that student's life, in shaping their day, which ultimately shapes their year and shapes their life, ultimately. So that's what I will say. Was that for the senior community, or did you say for someone else?
That answered the question, unless you've got anything else to add. So
Yeah. Did you say external?
Externals as well, yeah.
Oh, I think for external organisations, did you just say external?
Mm-hmm.
I guess in the same breath, really, it's just I guess organisations recognising that they too have a role to play in society, whether that's a business, that's a charity, and it could be an engineering business. If I just came back from Africa 2 days ago, and if I'm able to sit in a better plane, because it's an engineering company that...
I'll design you one. I'm an aerospace engineer.
Yeah, that's right. Because Rania recognised the importance of people having some proper sleep so that they can get back to work without being jet lagged for 10 hours. Then you're serving a purpose, aren't you, in life? So I think it's the same, really, recognising that.
You've got a deal. You're getting a business jet in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, that would be good.
Now, let's look into the future. What's next for you and Babbasa?
So I think, so I'm in the process of transitioning out as the CEO for Babbasa. I'll still hold the position at Babbasa as the founding director, which means I'll be operating almost by and large at board level only, and predominantly looking at where Babbasa can go, perhaps in other parts of the continent. And also, what are some of those structural barriers that could be influenced? That's not Babbasa's immediate objective, right? So to do some of that work. So that is happening, and I'm due to step down as the CEO come June. Connecting it back to what I'll be doing associated with Babbasa, obviously that would only be maybe a day or a couple of days a week. So the question is, what else would I be doing with my time? At the moment, I don't want to sign on the door or universal credit. So if someone has got an opportunity for me, then please do speak to me afterwards. Because the 2 days wouldn't be able to feed the kids. Maybe Rania, I can come and work for your design company.
You're hired.
Yeah.
You're already hired.
But I guess more broadly, I'm exploring what I can do with that rest of time. It may feel a bit natural for me to perhaps look at, consultancy and look at how I could be consulting for big firms, big engineering firms, and other organisations, so that it can be a bit more impactful and intentional as to how they affect communities. But that's still exploring. I've not got long to go, so I need to sharpen up, but that's what the future looks like.
Thank you very much. Can we have a massive round of applause, please, for Poku? We're going to move on to the Q&A section of this event. As we mentioned earlier, there's a QR code on the screen where you're able to put in your questions, but I also want to give a chance to the audience in case they've got any questions that you want to ask directly. Has anyone got any questions? All right. I'm going to start with the ones that I've got on my screen then. So first question, Poku, from the audience. What are your reflections on attitudes towards EDI in Bristol? What are our weaknesses and where can we improve as a city?
So this is at a city level.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'll take it from two angles. I think first and foremost, I think rather unfortunately, you because of what happened back in, was it 2021 or, I'm talking about the George Floyd incident and then what then happened thereafter, particularly in Bristol. It caused some level of fear and panic within corporate Bristol, or i.e. the business communities, and as such, a bit of a knee-jerk reaction. I think it's fair to say that it's caused some positive reactions for businesses beginning to think that what is our role? What's our role in a city that's hosting us? What are we supposed to be doing? And how can we possibly affect the city or inequality in a positive way? So you have some leaders asking that question sincerely and wanting to do something about it. But, classic business strategies, you also have the majority who are saying that how can we be seen to be doing something about it, and that is quite disruptive because and unfortunate because it's a real opportunity for us to see what we can do. And at times I say that it doesn't even matter. An organization may have the entire resource that they may have is £500, or at times no money at all. All they have maybe their staff. But I think even that, an honest question can be asked, that actually how do we capitalize on the resource that we do have, no matter how small, even if there's no money and it's pro bono, how can we capitalize to affect the lives of the marginalized in this city or help close the inequality gap? And they'll still have real answers that brings about real impacts. So I think that, to your question, is one area that I think we can continue to do more around, as in authentic engagement and authentic implementation from the business community. I think the second angle that perhaps to that question, as I see it, is that what I think that those incidents also produce is a whole bunch of people that have got the title of EDI experts to their name, which at times I don't think is because those individuals or organizations that have quickly set up are being insincere. I don't think that's. I think they're often passionate. They're often activists that want to see real change. I think my issue at times with that is not issue but concern is that not a lot of them are spending time to understand how organizations run, and they're going in too quickly, proposing some radical ideas that doesn't fit with how a business runs. And at times, out of the fear from businesses, they try to adapt it, and then they realize that it's totally disrupting their business, as opposed to adding value, letting them see the added value from them. So I talked about that issue about a couple of years ago, and what we're beginning to see is businesses now beginning to divest from EDI resourcing because they're thinking, actually, we're not seeing any results from this. We did put down the budget, we did invest in these roles, but it's not producing, which is a real shame. Not that the businesses should be doing that, because if it was any products or any other service, they wouldn't just say that, oh, we couldn't produce that, wing, aeroplane wing within the first 2 years, so we're just gonna shut it all down. Often they'll talk about how do we reiterate, how do we learn from this, how do we build on this. So I think it's those two things that comes to mind with your question.
Our next question is, what were limiting beliefs or doubts you were dealing with when developing the company, if you had any?
What were the limiting beliefs?
Or doubts.
Or doubts. Oh, there were many. Just the thing that shoots to mind is this example of when I started, I had, we had this space that we were given and had a hole in the roof and there was water, and we had to be at the corner somewhere and meeting 5-6 young people at a time and stuff like that. And I managed to get 2 volunteers, and one of the volunteers, to help with facilitating workshop sessions and engaging the young people. One of them came in, and after the first, I think, few days, like 3 days, they didn't turn up, I think, for the 4th day or so. So I was trying to reach them, I couldn't get them. And then I got this long email from them talking about how what they think I'm doing is very dangerous and could adversely impact the young people that I'm trying to serve. Why? Because I don't have experience, that I don't know the community that well, that I don't have youth work, all these things that I already knew that, but I still wanted to do something about it by bringing her on because I thought that they were rather using that and why they will advise me to stop immediately, and why they wouldn't be coming back again either. So that will hit you because you truly care, and if someone is saying that you're not the best person to do it, at times you wonder for a really long time whether you're the best person to do it because you care. But there were more generic limiting, did you say self-limiting beliefs or just limiting beliefs?
Just limiting beliefs or doubts.
I guess limiting beliefs, up till now, and I still walk into certain boardrooms and you can trust that I'll be the only black person there. It's not a joke, it was actually a racist joke. One day, this is one of these board meetings, I walked in and I was wearing a white shirt, and they said, oh, at least today you look a bit white so you can blend in. And I didn't actually get the joke. I thought, what was he talking about? And it was the CEO that later came on to apologize. And I said, so what was the joke? And he said, oh, it's because you're black and you're wearing a white shirt, so they were saying that your white blends in better. It's foolishness, but... So again, you can get that can feed into your imposter syndrome a bit more, and just know that for the students, that's normal. Imposter syndrome is normal, is recognizing that you just have to keep pushing on. And at times, if you feel that you're too drained, speak to your best friend or speak to your mum or your dad or your guardian, because they will let you know how amazing you are, or the fact that so long as you believe it, you will be okay. And it goes on and on.
I've definitely felt imposter syndrome throughout my life a few times, especially the first time when I walked into a boardroom when I was president. Walked inside of a room full of people who's got tens of years of experience, and I'm the only one there who's literally just finished university. So I completely sympathise, and I'm glad you didn't let that one email stop you from achieving what you did today.
No, and I guess that's the moral of the story. If you believe in it, don't just go in as an expert. Go in as someone willing to learn, and go in as someone that really wants to do a great job.
Our next question is, how can you be your authentic self at work and find the confidence to do so when you might be marginalised?
I think spending some time to do some work on yourself, to be able to distill what is sort of pervasive norms from what is real, you know. And when I say what is real, at times people say that because of your colour, you know, or society will tell you in all different forms that because of your colour, you are not as smart as someone who's a lighter shade to you. But maybe science will correct that and say that 99.8%, we share 99.8% of our DNAs together as human beings. Or, you know, you yourself may be beginning to believe that whatever that it is, I would say try and look for the evidence for that, and most often than not, you will find that is fabricated, and actually people thrive on that. I don't want to be too philosophical. Once you have a capitalist system, someone needs to make someone feel, at times, feel less or feel, I think anyway, you know, to keep that modus operandi, to keep that means of production going. I think people aren't. It's a crab system, isn't it? You know, people want to step on you to get up, so it's whatever they can use. To be fair, so long as you know that, and you are researching on the things that empower you, that lets you know your roots, that anchor you in your humanness, because we are all human. You know, if you cut all of us, we bleed red. I think spending some time to do that will ground you, will help you to deal with your own internalized doubts and internalized racism, and it will make you feel a bit more confident in that, knowing that that is the truth. I think there was a second part of the question. I don't want to lose it.
Finding the confidence to do so. So the first bit is about how to be your authentic self at work.
Yeah.
And finding the confidence.
Okay, so I feel like I've rather touched on finding the confidence. And being your authentic self, again, it feels vulnerable, particularly if you are the minority. And that's because we're creatures as humans, we're creatures of association, aren't we? We look for the norms, but, you know, just realize that your uniqueness is also your power. It's also what you bring into the space, what you bring into the room. And yes, it may feel uncomfortable. Yes, even some people may want to shut you down, but just recognize that your uniqueness in itself is power. So just keep bringing it. And when it feels too much, tell them off. Whoever is making you feel that way, because they don't have any right to make you feel that way. Just do that in a way that adds value to your progression path, you know. So I use the word tell off. Don't say that, hey, you know, let me tell you something here. Don't tell them off by giving them an uppercut. That's not what I'm saying. Just, you know, just recognize that you're on a trajectory, and there are always ways of doing something that helps you that helps keep you on the same trajectory or inclination path, and that doesn't derail you from that. But at the same time, make people know where you're coming from. If you want to know what I'm talking about, I'll say check out The Art of Powerful Questions, for example, because you can use just questions to really interrogate people's motives and let them understand where you're coming from without even having to spit your opinions and views.
Thank you. Our next question is about finances. So, do you have to be a financial whiz to be a CEO of a social enterprise, or can you recruit a good director of finance to burden most of that function? Someone really hates finance here.
Yeah, you really don't have to be a financial whiz, and you may not even have the money to recruit a financial director. But you need to know where you want to go. Because once you have a sense and some clarity about what the destination look like, your questions will be about if the situation or the problem or the finance issue is going to help you to get there. And it sounds simplistic, but just knowing where you want to go and asking questions through that lens, you realize that it will either push you to learn some basics about finance or whatever the subject is, and two, it will also push you to start to find people who can help you answer that question for yourselves. And they don't always, because you may not always have money to recruit the finance base. But I can promise you, you'd be surprised, you could literally pick up a phone to call an accountancy company and ask them the question that you want to get your head around, or ask for whether you can, there's power in sincerity, I think, and authenticity. And that doesn't stop at the doors of when you're talking to your friends and loved ones. I think, there's a lot of goodwill in the UK in particular, and you'll be surprised. We've got Prim here because she's sitting really close. Prim, is that one of your mentees?
He reports into me.
Oh, reports into Prim, okay. So Prim, I know Prim because she mentors, for example, through Babbasa, mentors other young people. That's someone who's decided to give their time. But she's a recruiter and a senior recruiter as such, and people know how pressed recruiters' time is. So you think that, recruiters wouldn't have time for you, but there she is. In the same way, you would think that an accountant wouldn't have time for you, but you'd be surprised. So don't be self-limiting in your asking. Maybe that's what I should say.
Thank you. How can you have diverse conversations within an organisation without invoking friction?
Again, it comes back to I think it comes back to making clear why it will be good to have such a conversation anyway at the workplace. Because if the workplace, even if the whole motive is about making money, and you're saying that, hey, because we're all different, if we don't have this conversation, we may not be able to challenge ourselves meaningfully, or we may not be able to feel like we can bring our different, unique perspective to the table. That will make any manager and CEO, and if we don't do that, we wouldn't be able to come up with nice products, informed products, to help the company make more money. So that's the objective, right? Mm-hmm. That's the objective that drives that manager. Now, connecting that objective to making that the reason why you want to have the conversations makes it easier to have the conversations. They'll welcome that because it's in line with that manager's KPI, so to speak, if that makes sense, or in line with that CEO's objective for the year or mission for the organization. I think it's about getting clear why you would like to have that conversation, because you will know that's why you want to have it. You want to have it because you don't want to feel othered, or you want to have that conversation because you don't feel like you belong. So what is the objective then? It becomes, I and other people want to feel like we belong to this organization, so we would like to have this conversation. So is speaking or putting forward such requests with clarity on the purpose and the reason why. I think people at times forget that. I think that's important.
Thank you.
And it opens doors.
Our next question is...
How many questions do we have? Because
We've got plenty of them.
in that case, I can
Okay.
shorten my answers.
We've got one last one.
Okay.
Unless
that's
someone
fine.
else has got a question in the audience that they'd like to ask. In that case, I'll ask the last question.
Okay.
Do you have advice for the slightly older generation who wish to transition into a new career or direction? Or maybe they want to try something new but still have life and family commitments to tend?
Maybe I'll say two things to that. And this may sound a bit utopian, but I think, I can see a scientist at the back, so maybe, he may also agree with me. Hopefully I wouldn't go off too much. So, we all, the entire world is energy, isn't it? It's different. Is it atoms, right? That makes up everything, right? And particles and come together. Am I right? Let's go a lecture at the back there. Lecture of DNA or something like that. What's your lecture? microbiology. That's why I'm going down the biology route. But if that is true, connecting it back to the question, I think there is. Let me not widen it too much. Ask the question again. Let me be even more succinct.
Do you have advice for the slightly older generation who wish to transition into a new career direction?
Yeah. So the thing that I wanted to say to that is this: I think there's power in being able to go confidently in the direction of your dreams, regardless of what you perceive to be the risk factors. Recognizing that as you pursue that with that energy, it's amazing how the universe in itself and people around you and resources around you start to, in a very interesting way, start to align to that sense of purpose. I appreciate that sounds quite sort of utopian in its field, but it is true. It's like if you want to buy, all of a sudden you said you want to buy a car, and once you say that, you start to see loads of those cars around you, or you like a car, you start to see loads of it. It's not that now all of a sudden there are more of those cars. They were always there, but it was just not in your conscious. It was not in your consciousness, so to speak. And it's the same. If today I decide to sell these mics, it'd be surprised that it could be Prem that I'm asking. It could be yourself to say that, hey, do you know anybody that can help me with this? And you'd be surprised. 6 degrees of separation, all of a sudden, is helping you solve the problems to help you achieve that end. So don't be scared to try or to make a start. What's the worst that can happen? You'll learn from it. People say it's called failure. I say it's just learning to build on from it. The second part to the question is, I think at times it may be very, very clear as to what those challenges are, family, what have you. But, again, maybe taking it from signs, almost like first principles. What is the issue? Family, okay, if you choose to do this, what can be done about that issue? Second is this, income. Okay, if you choose to do this, and it may end up that the minimum thing that you may start to do is actually spending 4 hours not watching your favorite series, Netflix series, maybe for 3 months, because you'll be using that time to work on something that makes you feel fulfilled, because that's what sense of purpose gives you. You'll find that actually there are a few things that you can sacrifice without not immediately, letting go of your responsibilities. And then you build on, and then when you're getting results, then you start to, you continue to build on from there. That's how, at least I know how to do it. And I think it works. And I've seen other people do it that way. At times they call it side hustle until it proves itself. So you can pursue that.
Thank you very much. So this concludes the end of our Q&A, and I want to thank Poku for his time as well for tonight. So can we please give him a massive round of applause? I also want to thank you as well for coming here and listening, and I hope you've learned something from Poku tonight and the conversations and the questions we've been having. Whether it's a new purpose, a new direction in life, or whether you already know what your purpose is or just needed that little nudge to keep you going in the direction that you're already going in. But without further ado, we've got some drinks and a networking opportunity following this event. If you would like to join us, please, it will be just outside in the foyer. And this is everything. So thank you very much for your time once again, and hope to see you outside for more conversations.